Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about one of the most shocking and significant events in the ongoing Russian-Ukraine conflict. The Crimea Bridge has been bombed once again, and this time no amount of Kremlin control or censorship can hide the truth. The explosion has ripped through one of Russia's most strategic and symbolic structures, sending shockwaves through Moscow and shaking the foundations of Vladimir Putin's claims of stability and control in the region. The Crimea Bridge, also known as the Kerch Strait Bridge, has always been more than just a transportation route. For Russia, it represents the physical and psychological link between mainland Russia and the occupied Crimean Peninsula. It's a symbol of dominance, pride, and the idea that Crimea is forever part of Russia. But for Ukraine, it's a target, the beating heart of Russia's military logistics and the lifeline for troops and supplies heading to the southern front. Each attack on this bridge isn't just a strike on infrastructure, it's a blow to Russia's sense of invulnerability. Reports began circulating early in the morning as residents in Kerch were awakened by the sound of massive explosions and plumes of smoke rising over the bridge. Videos began appearing online despite Russian attempts to suppress them, showing fiery destruction and twisted metal. The damage appeared far worse than in previous attacks. Eyewitnesses described a powerful blast that shook windows miles away, with sections of the bridge collapsing into the sea. What's different this time is how quickly the information spread. Russian state media tried to downplay it at first, calling it a localized fire. But satellite images and on-the-ground footage made the truth impossible to deny. This attack didn't come out of nowhere. Ukraine has been intensifying its drone and missile strikes deep inside Russian-held territory for months, pushing the limits of what was once thought impossible. The strategic use of naval drones, long-range missiles, and electronic warfare has allowed Ukraine to hit high-value targets with precision. The timing of this strike is also symbolic. It comes as Russian forces struggle to hold defensive lines in southern Ukraine, and as Putin faces increasing criticism from within his own ranks over military failures. The Crimean Bridge is essential for Russia's war effort. It carries not only civilian traffic, but also supplies ammunition and reinforcements to Russian troops in occupied southern Ukraine. Every time it's damaged, Russia's logistics chain suffers a massive setback. Repairing it is costly, time-consuming, and demoralizing. It sends a clear message that even heavily defended Russian infrastructure is not safe. The psychological effect is enormous. For many Russians, the bridge was a symbol of national pride, something Putin personally opened in 2018 while driving a truck across it. Seeing it in flames again is an image that cuts deep into the illusion of strength he tries to project. The Ukrainian government has not officially claimed responsibility, but the hints are clear. Officials in Kiev have repeatedly stated that any structure used for military purposes is a legitimate target. In recent interviews, Ukrainian military analysts have pointed out that the bridge has been a key artery for transporting weapons and troops to Crimea, making it an obvious target. This attack fits the pattern of Ukraine's strategy, hitting deep, hitting hard, and hitting where it hurts the most. For Putin, this is more than a military embarrassment, it's a political disaster. Each time the Crimea Bridge is hit, it undermines his promise to protect Russia and its annexed territories. It raises questions about the effectiveness of Russian air defenses, intelligence, and military leadership. State-controlled media can try to spin the story, but the truth is out in the open. Social media platforms flooded with videos of the explosion within minutes, and even Russian citizens began to question how such a high-security site could be struck again. The Kremlin's usual playbook deny, distract, deflect is starting to lose its power. Internationally, this event has reignited debates about the future of Crimea and the war itself. Western analysts see the repeated strikes as a sign that Ukraine is not backing down, even as the war drags on. The destruction of the bridge sends a signal to both allies and enemies. Ukraine still has the capability and determination to disrupt Russian operations far beyond the front lines. Meanwhile, Russia's allies, including those sitting on the fence, are growing uneasy. Every successful attack exposes weaknesses in Russia's defenses and chips away at its image as a military superpower. Economically, the impact is significant. The Crimea Bridge is a crucial link for trade and movement between Russia and Crimea. Its destruction disrupts supply chains, increases transportation costs, and causes panic among civilians trying to flee or return to the peninsula. Local reports mention long queues of cars, fuel shortages, and restricted ferry services as Russian authorities scramble to control the situation. The damage also threatens tourism in Crimea, which has already suffered due to the ongoing war. The peninsula, once promoted as a vacation paradise under Russian control, now looks more like a war zone. Strategically, Ukraine's goal is clear: isolate Crimea, cut off Russia's supply routes, and make it increasingly difficult for Moscow to sustain its military operations in the south. Every successful strike brings Kiev closer to that goal. The bridge has been repaired before, but repeated attacks make it increasingly expensive and impractical to maintain. Each time it's rebuilt, Ukraine proves it can destroy it again. This dynamic is slowly but surely eroding Russia's ability to maintain long-term occupation. Putin now faces pressure on multiple fronts. Domestically, nationalist bloggers and military commentators are furious, calling for accountability and stronger retaliation. Some have openly criticized the government's inability to protect critical infrastructure. In the past, Putin could rely on propaganda to control the narrative, but now, cracks are showing even within his loyal base. Ordinary Russians are starting to feel the effects of the war, from rising prices to fear of escalation. The sight of the Crimea Bridge burning once more brings the war closer to home than ever before. On the Ukrainian side, morale is high. The country sees this as proof that its strategy is working, that persistence and innovation can outmatch a larger enemy. The success of long-range attacks, whether through drones or precision missiles, showcases how Ukraine has adapted and evolved its military tactics. The message to Russia is unmistakable: no target is out of reach. For Ukrainians, this isn't just about revenge or symbolism, it's about reclaiming their land and proving their sovereignty in the face of aggression. Meanwhile, the international community watches closely. Western nations have provided Ukraine with advanced technology, intelligence, and funding, but they've also been cautious about escalation. Each major strike raises the stakes, and the world wonders how far Putin might go in response. Will he retaliate with greater force, or will he tighten internal control and focus on damage control? Thus far, Russia's responses have been largely defensive, consisting of air raids on Ukrainian cities meant to show power but achieving little strategic gain. However, this latest bridge attack might push the Kremlin toward even more drastic measures. The question now is how this will shape the next phase of the war. Ukraine has demonstrated that it can hit deep into occupied territories, forcing Russia to divert resources to protect critical sites. This weakens Russia's frontline capabilities and exposes the vulnerability of its vast infrastructure network. If the pattern continues, Crimea could become increasingly isolated, a symbolic and strategic trap that Russia cannot defend forever. Analysts predict that continued pressure on Crimea will eventually make its defense unsustainable, paving the way for future Ukrainian offensives. As the smoke clears over the Kerch Strait, one thing is certain: this war has entered a new phase. The days when Russia could easily control the narrative are over. The truth is spreading faster than propaganda, and the images of destruction are too powerful to erase. The world is watching not just a military conflict, but a war of information, technology, and willpower. Ukraine's persistence and tactical brilliance are proving that even a smaller nation can challenge a global power through strategy and resilience. For Putin, this moment could define the rest of his political legacy. The repeated destruction of the Crimea Bridge symbolizes not just military failure, but the crumbling of an illusion that his rule is untouchable and his projects eternal. The bridge he once boasted about as an unbreakable link between Russia and Crimea is now a repeated reminder of vulnerability. Each explosion echoes louder than the last, both on the battlefield and inside the Kremlin's halls of power. In the coming weeks, the world will be watching how Russia responds. Will it launch new offensives? Will it double down on propaganda? Or will it face the hard truth that its control over Crimea is slipping away? One thing is undeniable. Ukraine has sent a message that cannot be ignored. The bridge may be rebuilt again, but the psychological damage is permanent. Every strike brings us closer to a reckoning, not just for the bridge, but for the entire illusion of Russian dominance in the region. So as we end today's report, remember this. The war in Ukraine is not just being fought with bullets and bombs, but with ideas, courage, and determination. The Crimea Bridge's destruction once again shows that no empire, no matter how powerful, is beyond vulnerability. The fight continues, and the world is witnessing history unfold before its eyes. Stay tuned for more updates and analysis as this story develops.